Hey Thaddeus, how are you? Welcome
Hey,
to episode 12 of season 2 of Ticket to Ride. I'm Paul DeGarabedian, senior media analyst for Comscore. Thaddeus Bouchard, the El Presidente of
I
Screen
should have my
Dollars.
I should
And
have my little coat on with all the lapel things and everything right
you have your
now.
epaulets and everything. You're like Sergeant Pepper over there. And
Right.
on the next one, you have to do that. And we're going to be joined by our very famous co-host, Mike Polydorus from Paper Airplane, the
And
president of Paper
and
Airplane.
and a world traveler is what I
And a world
understand.
traveler. He was in Prague, I think, as seeing Springsteen. I don't want to tell his story. I'll let him. He's the biggest Springsteen fan. And he's currently at CineEurope in Barcelona. And he'll be joining us in just a few minutes. But like Thaddeus and I, we want to get going. We're chomping at the bit.
Right.
So Mike will hop in at some point, and I'm sure have some great insights for us. So
So much
Thaddeus, let's
so much to talk about. So much
Let's
to talk
talk
about.
about everything. I want to start with something a little fun, though.
Sure.
And then we'll get into the nitty gritty dirt band, so to speak, but the nitty gritty. So I've been asked by several outlets to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the release of Steven Spielberg's Jaws, which opened on June 20 of 1975.
Wow.
I was a mere 14-year-old lad, and I remember going to the Del Amo Theater in Torrance with my friends to see Jaws. We were absolutely scared out of the water and into the movie theater. And I took my parents back once, my aunt, my cousin, my sisters. I think I saw Jaws 5 or 6 times, first run in movie theaters. And remember, I couldn't drive. So my way to get people to drive me to the movie theater was say, hey, you got to see this movie. And everyone had heard of it. It was not the first blockbuster, but I would argue which Godfather, Exorcist, and may be at the top of that chart. But it was the first summer blockbuster.
Summer blockbuster,
Godfather
yeah.
was released in mid-March.
Right.
And Exorcist was released the day after Christmas in 1970.
Well, just as everyone was heading to the beach for their summer vacation, the movie came out, and so it sort of coincided. So the actual, so subject of the movie is very summer oriented. So that's
Very much.
in addition to when it was released, it sort of jived with the moment, and I think that was part of
And
what
it
made it.
impacted people's behavior. It's just like when Tom Cruise slid across that floor in Risky Business with the Wayfarers, all of a sudden Wayfarer sales went through the roof. You put out a movie like Jaws and nobody wants to go into the ocean anymore. And I broke down the top summer movie of each year since 1970.
Let me add one fun story about Jaws,
Yeah.
and then we'll go into the whole
Yeah.
range of summer movies. So I have a theater owner that's a customer of ours at Screen Dollars. Guy's name is Bill Haney. He runs this small little circuit of 7 locations in New England called Entertainment Cinemas. He also has 2 live action stage show performance venues, and that's a real passion of his, is to put on these live performances. And he is running a stage performance of Jaws, the story of Jaws, with like the 3 guys on the boat and the shark is swimming around and everything, and it's selling out. His 2 theaters in New
I'm
England.
going.
One's in
I
Rhode
wanna see
Island,
that.
one's in Massachusetts. So
It's incredible. I know in New York, I think a couple of years ago, they had a Jaws. It was Robert Shaw's son, I believe, put on a stage play version of the movie, or at least part of it, set on the boat, which was most of the movie, not all of it though.
Right.
And yeah, that's pretty amazing. I always remember Land Shark on SNL.
yeah, right.
Land Shark, and that purely came out of Jaws. That whole fear of the ocean, and Peter Benchley obviously wrote that book, and,
Right.
and The Deep, which
And The Deep,
also
yeah.
was not as big of a hit as Jaws, but still made an impact, and just shows you how impactful movies are. And I love that story, and the fact that it was 50 years ago. And I should know this, but I don't know everything about box office, Daddy, especially back in the day. Summer was looked at as a time that would not be a good time to open movies.
Sure.
And that certainly shifted with Jaws. It was almost like they were hiding it in the summer or something, because back then, if you look back, a lot of the bigger movies were either released in the first quarter, or so many, when I went and looked back, were released in December, like around Christmas. That was like a touchstone day, like
holiday movie.
opens Christmas Day. Like it was
Well, there's now there's conventional wisdom about what are the right times to open different types of movies. How
yeah,
there's sort of Valentine's movies or rom-coms, and
right.
but horror has taken over February for some reason,
Yeah.
and so there's all this conventional wisdom that from the studio side about when to release different types of movies, and it's interesting to analyze because it does change. It is the way that Hollywood works until it's no longer the way that Hollywood works, right?
Right.
So,
And horror movies right now, between Sinners and Final Destination, according to our ComScore data, accounts for about this year so far about 11% of the box office. That's huge. And you go back to 2017, and that was when it topped the box office and Get Out both came out that year. And 2017 was the first year that horror movies topped or eclipsed the $1 billion domestic box office mark in 2017. Before that, it was in the 400 or 500 million range per year. Although you could have one year where a big breakout happened, and that's why a horror in a certain year a horror might have been bigger than expected. But define horror. I mean, some people think Jaws is a horror movie. I don't. I think it's a suspense movie. So I don't really categorize that. I'm more of an old school. Horror like is a haunted house or a slasher or I don't know what, but it's in the eye of the beholder. But do you want to hear that?
Let's do it. Let's go over sort of a walk down memory lane of the best summer movies.
Let's walk down cinematic memory lane. So 1975 Jaws was obviously the number one. Made about $260 million. I'm not going to go through all the box office, but $260 million. It had reissues that boosted that closer to $275 million. And then in 1976, The Omen, which I love that movie, but you go back and look at the reviews, they were not great. So anyway, so The Omen, pretty scary movie. Talk about a juxtaposition, going from Jaws to The Omen. Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars came out in 1977.
So sci-fi fantasy. So we've got thriller. I guess Jaws probably would be a thriller, right?
Yeah.
And then horror, and then sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah, and then musical. 1978. Grease is the word. Came out June 16 of 78. $132 million. Think about that. What was the average ticket price in 78? Like $2.25 or something?
Sure.
And then Alien, the anti-Star Wars, came out 2 years after Star Wars in 1979. That was the number one summer movie in 79. And then 1980, The Empire Strikes Back. So Star Wars, as you talked about, certain movies come out the same time every year. And Star Wars was magic around Memorial Weekend. And Star Wars, I recall, opened very limited in its first in its debut. Very limited. I think people are shocked by that. I forget how many theaters, but it opened, I believe, on a Wednesday. And they didn't know what they had. They soon found out.
That was back when word of mouth and critics' reviews and sort of that, and films would build over a very extended, or could in some cases build over an extended period of time. Also, there were many fewer movie theater screens back then too. So these box office numbers were produced on a much smaller footprint of theaters.
And no social media. No social media other than the water cooler. People watching the news, seeing people lined up around the block as they did for The Godfather. Again, that was a March, not a summer release. And then getting excited and then being at the water cooler, not the virtual, the real water cooler on Monday and going, you got to go see this movie. 1981, Superman 2 was the number one summer movie. Superman 2, E.T. in 1982. Star Wars returns in 83 with Return of the Jedi. And then 84, Ghostbusters was the top summer movie. Wow. 189 million in that summer run. That's a lot of money, man, in 1984. Rambo First Blood Part 2 in 1985. 1986, Top Gun, of course. Beverly Hills Cop 2 the next year. I'm not going to go too slow. I'll kind of burn through these. So 1986, Top Gun, Beverly Hills Cop 2 in 87, Who Framed Roger Rabbit in 88.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? My sort of insight into that. It's one of the first maybe live action, animation
Hybrid.
combinations or
Yeah.
hybrids. Yeah.
It was one of the first, if not the first time. There may have been some stuff back in the 30s or 40s that kind of did in some of those musicals, but no, that's absolutely right. Then Batman, the 1989 Batman,
Fascinating.
then Ghost in 90, Terminator 2 Judgment Day in 91, Batman Returns, and indeed he did, I said. Batman Returns in 92. Now I remember this was the first movie that opened. I'd started in the business March 3rd of 93, and that same year Jurassic Park opened June 11, 93. That was a massive hit. I remember when that opened, it was the talk of the town. I believe at that point it was the biggest opening weekend of all time. So yeah, that was a big one, Jurassic Park.
Half of these movies are still franchises that are with us, obviously, with Jurassic Park coming up.
That's a great point. I mean, they really are. Batman,
Alien.
even Beverly Hills Cop on Netflix.
Yeah. Yep, fun.
Alien, Star Wars.
Absolutely, right.
Yeah. I would argue, though, that Jaws spawned the worst sequels. They were money grabs. Those were Jaws 3D is hilarious when the shark is swimming and the guy's looking out the porthole of the undersea vessel or whatever, and it busts through the window and it's fully animated.
Right.
It's hilarious.
Well, if I recall, it was sort of like you wanted to watch the movie so you could see how the shark wasn't real.
Yeah, in 3D, which made it look even more unreal. So Lion King, Jurassic Park 93, Lion King 94, Batman Forever 95, Independence Day in 96.
Yep.
That opened on July 3rd, which I think was a Tuesday, as I recall. That was kind of unusual.
That was a period of time where Disney was coming out of its funk. It had been in a funk for a couple decades, trying to find its way. Yeah. And, when The Lion King came out, it really made a huge difference in the life of that studio. Hey there.
Mikey.
Hey, Mike.
How are you doing?
Very good. How are you?
Great.
Sorry that I joined late, gang, but I am in Barcelona and attending CineEurope, and the Disney presentation ran late.
So how was the Disney presentation, Mike?
It was great. They had, I would say, more footage than they had at CinemaCon. There was more extensive look at the Roses Paul, which looks fantastic.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that looked great. Showed a extended piece from Avatar. Debuted the new trailer from the Springsteen movie, Springsteen Deliver Us Delivering Me from Nowhere, which looks great. As a huge Springsteen,
Mike, doesn't have particular resonance for you this week.
It does. It does.
You're a homer. You're a homer when it comes to that movie, I think.
As everyone knows, I'm a huge Springsteen fan. I saw him in Prague on Sunday. It rained for 2/3 of the show, but it was still great. And the trailer, the footage they showed here, really, set the story. Like it looks like a big story. And it was just a really impressive.
Exciting.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and the great thing about CineEurope is, you get a different perspective from it, because these are not the domestic exhibitors. These are the European exhibitors from all over Europe. And, they tend to look at things not like we do through a domestic window. They look at through a worldwide window.
There's nothing like going to an industry conference like, CinemaCon or whatever the conference might be. Seeing a studio presentation or actually a screening of an actual film sometimes, and having people who know what they're doing, they're industry people, walk out of that screening just like they're kids. They're so excited about the content and obviously possibly also the financial implications, but the content of the film,
I also want to give major kudos to the Paramount team and Mark Vion, who put on an outstanding presentation this morning. Anyone who has been to CinemaCon, they always see the fun stuff that Chris Aronson does when he comes out. And there's always a great opening. the opening that Mark Dion and his team did for the show today was just outstanding. When I saw him later, I just told him, I said, I've never seen an opening like that. I can't
Wow,
really
that's so
explain
cool.
it. It was, they leaned into Naked Gun, Paul. And
Oh,
they,
Oh
fun.
yeah.
they basically took the entire Paramount team as the police squad, as the Paramount squad, and they were coming to Barcelona to present their wares. And
Oh my God, that's
they
great.
had fun with everything Police Squad and Naked Gun related,
How
and
fun.
also weaving in all of their other titles through this 5-minute opening that was very clever, put everybody in a great mood, and their slate looked good. And Warner's had a great presentation yesterday. Our good friend Jeff Goldstein took the stage for the first time and was able to, as the head of global distribution, and they showed 20 minutes of Superman footage, and
Oh,
the
can't
crowd
wait.
left there just their jaws on the floor. So
Yeah.
And they're having a good year too, on top
yeah,
of
they
it.
are.
So they're
not
excited.
only having a good year, they're going to have a tremendous year going forward. I mean, we've talked about it before. I know I came in late, but we have Superman coming up. We have F1 coming up, and I know that's an Apple
Yeah.
film, but Warner's is distributing it. And then when you get into the fall, they've got the next Conjuring coming up as well. Like
Right.
they're locked.
I love that
Yeah, they're
franchise.
locked and loaded. They're going to have just a tremendous year with
Just to let everyone know on this call, I've secured my IMAX F1 tickets. My wife Stephanie and I are booked to go next Wednesday at 3 in the afternoon. Can't wait at Topanga
That is
AMC. So
fantastic, Paul.
looking forward to that. Wrap those up, and the minute Superman tickets are available. I got to tell you guys, this is a summer where I'm a movie fan, not a box office analyst this summer. I am so excited for so many of these movies all the way up through August. I mean, Weapons looks from Zach Krieger looks incredible. The Roses.
It's funny. We had breakfast with some people today, and they were talking about Weapons and what they showed yesterday. And again, that was another one where they walked away going, "That looks great," and that looks so. The fun thing about CineEurope and CinemaCon is fantastic, but CineEurope is another month and a half closer to these tent poles. And
Right.
that means there's a little more footage for them to be able to show. They open up the kimono a little bit more on that, and But the great thing is, everyone's excited. Like everybody
Yeah,
walks
great.
out of there. No one's walking out of here coming like we got big problems or anything like that. To your point,
Right.
Paul, I think everybody's looking at each week on the release calendar up through the middle of August with it, this is gonna, it's one weekend after another. I mean, the big, and again, I'm sure you guys covered it, but obviously we had a bit of a dip this past weekend, but that was all because of Inside Out 2. It should
Comparatively,
level,
right.
I'm guessing, Paul, in doing the calculations, we probably level out very close to even with last year coming up on this weekend.
That's right.
And then
And I think too, and we have to. We're a little short on time, but we were doing by the way, though, Mike is our international correspondent.
That's
for
right.
Ticket
came
to Ride.
in and I hijacked the whole thing.
Yeah, we flew him there on the Ticket to Ride jet. It was amazing, and
Right.
we play only Beatles songs on the jet. But I want to tell you, Mike, what we were talking about before you hopped on, and then
Yeah, we gotta
definitely
wrap
when
it
you
up,
get
yeah.
back, we need to do a bigger recap of Barcelona and your travels. But we were going through talking about summer movies and the top summer movies, and as we all know, and we talked about this earlier in the program, Jaws 50th anniversary, June 20, 1975, the film was released. And I've had a couple of major press outlets reach out to me for what was the top summer movie every year. And knowing that Mike started in theater business when he was a child, he probably was in Westwood presenting some of these movies. But Mike, I'll just give a smattering of these,
Okay.
and then you give your reaction.
Okay, let's go.
Thaddeus and I.
I think we were up to like 1995 or something.
Yeah, we
is
went
that
through
right?
them. But okay, Jaws, 1975. That was the number one summer movie. 76 was a little trickier. I had to do a little box office archaeology. The Omen,
Ah,
which is
right,
kinda
right,
cool.
Okay.
because that was kind of going out there on a limb, putting a horror movie at the end of June. Then Star Wars, 1977.
But you know what the number 2 movie that year was, Paul?
Which year?
77.
77.
Next. Oh, that's a great question.
Smokey and the Bandit. Anyway,
Oh,
moving on. Keep going.
I should have known that, but I love that. I love that. Oh, and I think the year The Omen came out, I don't know if the Amityville Horror, the one with James Brolin.
Yeah.
Right. That
Yeah.
might have been.
Was that 76?
Wasn't the original Omen, wasn't Gregory Peck in that movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lee Remick, I think.
Right.
And then Grease, 1978.
Yep. Okay.
So you had musical in there. Alien, 1979, the anti-Star Wars.
That was, yes, I saw that movie 5,000 times at the Egyptian Hall.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
Yes.
Right?
That's right. And on Ticket to Ride, no one can hear you scream. And Alien, I remember seeing it in Westwood at the Avco Westwood,
Yes.
Mike?
Yeah, I would have played at the Avco.
Yeah.
Is Alien a sci-fi movie or a horror movie?
Probably more horror than to this day, Thaddeus.
Yeah.
To this day, it's the scariest movie I've ever seen.
It's funny. Yeah.
It's pretty scary. I love that movie. The scariest movie for me is The Exorcist because as a child, my sisters traumatized me by sneaking me into a movie theater and making me watch that film.
You were at the right age to be scared out of your mind, right?
Yeah, scared the crap out of me. So now I'll go through real quick. So what a lineup of top, again, ComScore's list of the top summer movies, meaning first run. Yep. Because if you take the lifetime gross, so let's say a Star Wars, it's very different than the summer gross from the year of release. But I'm just going to go in no order. 1987, Beverly Hills Cop 2. 86, Top Gun. Ghostbusters, 1984. Jurassic Park, 93. Again, top summer movies each year. Terminator 2, Judgment Day, 1991. Batman Forever, 95. Armageddon, 98. Mission Impossible 2, 2000. Shrek, the first Shrek, 2001. Top
DreamWorks.
summer movie. Spider-Man, of course, in 2002, which at that time posted the first $100 million opening with $114
That was a
million.
big
as
deal.
I
If you
recall.
remember, that was a really big deal when that happened.
Sure.
It was a huge. They even riffed on that on the show Entourage, that they would beat with the James Cameron Aquaman movie, that they would beat that Spider-Man opening gross of 114, 116, 038, whatever the heck it is.
Funny.
But yeah, pretty cool to look at those summer movies. And I would argue that this is a summer movie season, to me, that ranks up there. Not necessarily, we're not going to break a record box office. Right. When I say I think this could be one of the greatest summers ever, I mean in terms of the goodwill that's going to be created, how many great movies are on the way.
And a variety of movies, too. There's really different types of movies all summer long. So
yeah.
Well, Paul, I know you
I have to jump here.
And I'm sorry, guys, I was late, but
no, we're good.
You know, the great news is, you know, our business is humming right now.
Right. Yeah.
And what a better time to celebrate Jaws in the midst of one of the greatest summer movie seasons ever in 2025. I love it, man.
Is Jaws?
Right.
I believe they're getting their first 3D release too. Isn't that coming up? Isn't there?
Oh,
aren't they doing that? Yeah, aren't they doing the re-release here in 3D?
Of Jaws?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I believe. You know what? I'm not going to speak on that because I don't know that for sure.
Right.
It could be. Well,
we'll research that.
Dare to dream, could happen. Well, I'm Paul DeGarabedian, Senior Media Analyst for ComScore. Mike Polydorus, our international correspondent from Paper Airplane Media. Thaddeus Bouchard, always at the helm, always at the controls, our captain, my captain of Screen Dollars. And we're actually going to, on the next episode, we'll go through the notes that Dick Walsh and you put together for what was going to be
on
this
the box
episode.
office, on the upcoming and the 2025 box office, basically. Yes.
Yeah, that'll be perfect for the next episode. So
great, super.
Keep on listening, keep on watching. We'll see you at the movies. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
bye-bye.
guys.
See you soon.
Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.